What is going on, everybody? Happy Wednesday. It's a pretty happy Wednesday for me. I had a nice night last night. I finished third in the Mega Sevens. You know, it's so close. You want that 100K, but I'll take 20K on a all profit night basically, and one entry. And it was right there. Almost for it all, but maybe one little pivot. But I love the lineup construction. I love what I went with, and I thought that it's a really good thing to touch base on. Maybe talk a little bit about use an example of some of the things we've been talking about.
Yeah, so why don't we do this? Why don't we start by sharing your screen? If you want to just keep it up there, that's fine too.
No, that's fine. I'd love to jump over to yours at some point.
That's fine. And then you could just go over and what's good about this is it's not the normal lineup review. And you know that I hate this when people enter like 150 lineups. Oops. What happened here?
Yeah.
There it is. Yeah. When people enter 150 lineups and one lineup happens to get there, and then they go backwards and they say, okay, so look at how I created this lineup, right? I really just don't want to hear it. You know what I mean?
Right.
You want to talk about like in general how you script and get to that point, like that's fine. But this was legitimately like the one lineup you built for this tournament, which is the biggest tournament of the day.
Right.
Okay, so this is actually the lineup that you like the best.
Right. So like a couple things about it. First of all, up until literally lock and listening to the other shows and looking at the projected ownership, I didn't see anywhere that had Singer above 8%, and most places I saw had him at 3 or 5%. Now, I know he was lower owned at the smaller buy-ins, which does show you that this is a savvy field, and also that you could have won with him. You can see the guy who beat me by a quarter of a point also had Singer in his lineup. The thing that I thought was important to show was that, first of all, I talked about it on the show yesterday that I wanted to spend down. Now, my outfield spend downs didn't do what I hoped for, and I didn't play. I could have played DJ Stewart instead over here and ended up winning the tournament with, I think, 9 or 10 fantasy points that he scored. But whatever, I don't feel bad about it because Soler was clearly my favorite play. Marte, I love the idea, like as high owned as he was, I figured anybody who's going to use him, the idea of using him and Albies together in the same lineup is almost impossible because if you're going to play Marte, mostly you're playing him at second base, first of all. Second of all, most people aren't naturally paying all the way up for Albies. And third, almost nobody's paying up for Albies and not playing Acuna or something like with that big stack. I did play Ozuna as my one other spend up in the outfield because I had room to do it. I actually considered at one point going to d'Arnaud as my catcher and then paying down in my outfield spot again and then also spending up at both pitcher spots, which would have still been a solid lineup and probably a 20th or 30th, somewhere in that range. But the thing I wanted to do, I had played too big a lineups overall between both sides. I knew I wanted Seager as my shortstop in one, and I knew I wanted Tatis in my other one if I could get them in, and I felt like they were much better plays at the position than everybody else was. I also realized that Seager was going to be low owned. So I went with my infield stacking thing, although I did throw in Ozuna in the outfield, but again, originally it was d'Arnaud as catcher. And if I try to make this a 5-man stack, there's no way I have any chance of coming anywhere near the top, much less winning, which I really could have won. There was a lot. First of all, I almost had another at bat from Seager in the ninth. There, he was on deck with the last out. Not to mention Joey Bart too. That was a scary little thing. Joey Bart was down by 11 points on me, and then he had a double with 2 RBIs, and then he came up again with runners on in the ninth, and I was like, or the bottom of the eighth. And fortunately he struck out that time, but and he was 0.5% owned, so it was just the one guy behind me. Anyway, it was hopefully what we wanted to do. Obviously, look, it'd be great if Riley would have hit a home run and we would have won the tournament and all that stuff. It still shows you, though, how that 4-man stack can make a difference. And basically, between my 2 lineups yesterday, between FanDuel and DraftKings, I had 2 4 and 2 stacks. On FanDuel, I actually had a 4-2-2 with Minnesota and which was Buxton, I think, and Minnesota and Arizona was my 4-man, and Atlanta was my 2-man. And then over here, I had Arizona as a 2-man, and they were my 4-man over there. They were the stacks that I liked the most, regardless, of result or whatever. I didn't get much from my Arizona guys over here, but it was enough. And it was a really, really great night. A big home run by Ozuna in the ninth or in the eighth was huge, obviously, to put it over the top. And you need some luck in baseball, but overall, I thought the interesting thing about stacking 4 and then mainly sticking with the plan of trying to pay down the outfield. Although I, again, used 1 spot for Ozuna. But that was sort of the general strategy. I also had some other lineups that were deep in the relay throw with where I had instead of Seager at shortstop, I played Dansby Swanson batting ninth, who also had a home run, and did some different things there. But this was the overall thing I felt best with. I wanted to get 2 Arizona guys, and I specifically wanted to play Marte and Albies together on DraftKings. because I just thought that as much as Marte was a popular play, that's a combination that I promise you very, very few people had.
Can you do that? I mean, can you look at, I bet you could.
I'm sure we can
Look
check
at,
the breakdown.
you gotta be well versed at like the Fantasy Crunch and all that stuff and to figure that out. But see who.
But just logically, I mean, the same way that Nick Solak would probably not show up on lineups with Albies, yesterday.
Right.
Exactly. You know what I mean? It's just a logical thing. I don't know what the percentage is. My guess would be somewhere around 2% or 1%.
I don't think it could be even that much. If you want.
Of the overall lineups. Of the Albie lineups, I would say maybe 5 to 10% maximum of the Albie contained lineups could have Marte. So that would be 1 to 2% or 1.2, I guess, half to 1.5%. Yeah, but so it was a good night. I felt good to, it's really fun when you get it right. And I was so worried about the singer thing. I almost didn't give up, but because I knew I sort of had tattooed the Atlanta part of it. But it was just, it's one of those things. And sure, it would have been nice. By the way, I still believe in this kid singer. He could not find the strike zone. I've never seen anybody lose their control so badly. He hit a batter and walked 5, all career highs in 3 innings. And what's weird is when he was throwing the ball anywhere near the plate, he looked pretty damn good. They weren't, I think that by the time they scored their first 4 runs, they'd had 1 hit. So he wasn't like, he was fooling people. It was I stand by the play 100%. I think we got the absolute floor game out of him. And whatever, I'm happy to move forward and just say, hey, you know what? We got a nice night. We're ready for a big slate today. And it feels good to have a nice little 20K win.
For those who didn't realize, I mean, if they're watching this early, remember that DraftKings is a full hour earlier than they usually lock their main slate. So that means make sure that you don't get shut out and make sure that you get in there before they fill also, just because everything's like an hour earlier. So just make sure that you're ready for that. And the FanDuel slate is remarkably different because the FanDuel slate they have neither Giolito nor Bieber on their main slate. They put them in the early slate. They have an early slate at 4:10 Eastern that encompasses that game, but they don't have that in the main slate. I have an overall question which I texted you. I figured we just wait for this. We're getting down towards the last week or so of the season, where teams that are in the playoffs or getting near the playoffs, whatever, they want to do 2 things, right? They want to lock down their playoff positions, and at the same time, not even at the same time, but on a different level, they want to get their pitchers ready and their rotations ready for the playoffs. So what I laid out to you, and I wanted to ask you is, first of all, in general, because I really don't know, like what do teams do with like their ace starters as they get down their last start or start or 2? And second of all, specific to this year, how do you think that applies?
Well, it's very pitcher. I mean, so basically it's very pitcher. It's dependent on who you're talking about. But in general, what I would say is like, so there's different things. Like the end of the season, sure, but like Cleveland needs to win games right now. Which
they do? Okay.
Yeah, I mean they're in the hunt right now. I mean they don't need to win. They do need to win. It's not a must-win everything for them, but it is a must-win for Cincinnati. So there's your motivation. Then you have Giolito, who's pitching, and he doesn't have the same motivation. The White Sox are clinched. So what I would expect is that you have a pretty safe, no matter what, 90 pitches probably from Giolito. But I don't think anything over that would surprise me. And because of the extreme talent, and by the way, Minnesota, same deal. They need to win as well. Maeda, who's also been very good against Detroit. So those are the guys you sort of, are considering up here. And I think it's different for each guy. In general, I expect Bauer to have the longest leash, including Bieber, on the slate. I would say that they're both about the same, though. And I really like Maeda. I think Giolito's the guy who's probably going to be the odd man out for me.
So Cleveland clinched something yesterday. They didn't clinch the division. They just clinched the playoff spot.
Playoff spot, yeah, which is a huge difference. I mean, playing basically for a play-in series for, a 2 out of 3 or a single game, depending on it's too much. Like it's too much risk. So you obviously want to win the division, and they're probably, I don't know if they can win. I don't think they can win the division. Well, let me see where they can finish. Also, there's the home and away for that. So I think they still have something to play for, is my point.
home and away being what? Is it aren't all the playoffs being played in the bubble?
What bubble?
I thought that they were doing something. I thought they were doing baseball. They were doing some bubble satellite stadiums or something for the playoffs. No?
I must have missed. I guess so. I literally have been so dialed into this. I forgot looking at that whole thing. I also was so skeptical about this baseball season happening. Yeah.
When we're ready, when it's ready, we'll be ready for that. And that if that in fact does happen, I mean, then we have like the park situation is going to be really interesting.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I just got another message that I'm gonna have to pause at one point and answer the door at some point. So just sorry to be distracted.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
All right, so let's get into it. Why don't you pull your screen up and let's go game by game.
Okay. So you already unshared yours. All right. So let's let me. Oh, here it is. Share.
You know, while you're doing that, I'm just going to say, like, a lot of people complained about the slate yesterday not being a good slate. I felt the exact opposite, and it's not just because I won. I mean, we were on our shows yesterday, and I really liked the slate yesterday. I think today is, like, fascinating. It's just, yeah, it's really hard. It might be hard enough to where it's just we just do the really obvious thing and get it lower ownership. But I like your original build, by the way, Sheets. I can get behind some of this.
Well, I mean, it's just one of several that I threw that
yeah.
I put in there. But you know, overall slate view, you know, is I got it down to, well, first of all, with 700,000 games on the slate, I guess this is going to be one of those where you don't have to worry about ownership too much. I'm just guessing with the hitting, I imagine.
Yeah.
I'm just guessing that's the case. So I narrowed it down to, you know, just for fun, for like eight or so teams, something like that. And for pitching, we'll get there. I guess we'll give people put people a little bit of suspense, I suppose.
All right. Well, let's talk about it. I mean, so we've got this first Philadelphia-Washington game, and to be honest, this is one of the spots that I'm really looking at today. I love Philly. I specifically love, like, I mean, you get great prices on basically everybody outside of Harper and Real Muto. But I don't mind if you can include those guys. Dre Bruce is 2.3K, assuming he's in the lineup. I'm sure he will be. He should be today. I love Didi as a shortstop option in that little middling tier. I like McCutchen and Bohm a ton. Fetty doesn't, like, strike people out. He gives up a lot of contact. You take a lot of these Phillies who have strikeout issues as one of their issues, and it just feels like a great spot. Fetty gives up hard contact. He gives up stolen bases. He walks a ton of people. I mean, there's really not a whole lot not to like about Philly, except for it's a giant slate. It's the first game of the slate, but I love this stack. It's one of my favorites. It's probably in my top, let's just say out of my three major lineups that I've built so far today, this was my first stack that I combo stacked.
Yeah, so Jay Bruce is the one who stands out, obviously, as the at least on DK, as the strong value, who will be the, you know, probably the chalky. He'll be like chalky enough, but if God forbid he gets a lineup spot, he'll be like really chalky. But
well, so but you know, we have Soler at 27. There's other guys out there, you know.
Yeah.
But you're right. Bruce does stand.
Well, and Marte. Yeah. So there's him. And then I agree with you. I like Baum. I like McCutchen. And Harper, those are my top ones. And then is Real Muto back?
Yeah, if he's, and assuming he's back, by the way. I mean, again, these teams need to win games. Like, you know what I mean? A lot of them are even grasping a little bit at straws at some point, but there's only like 7 games left. And in baseball, you've seen teams make up 4 games in a week before in the end of the season. It happens a lot, actually. So everybody should be playing to win all their games, to do all the things. I think we see the best effort here. The best hope, I think, because of the way the prices work out, is to try and stack this without Harper or Real Muto or both. But with Real Muto, it scares me a little bit more because I have him as so far and away the best catcher of the day. And there's tons of outfielders that I like. I also think Harper carries more walk, you know, potential. So hopefully, you know, you would hope that at that price, maybe he gets a couple walks and doesn't do all the home run damage that he did last time I tried to stack this team. But everybody down to Roman Quinn at the bottom and Adam Hazley deserve to be part of a 5-man potentially. I don't love those guys initially, But I think, a 4 or 5 man stack from this team, 3, 4, 5, I'm good with all of them. I'm finding myself with more 4 men just because I want to pay up for pitchers, and it's hard to do with playing Yankees and Phillies. You can't really play Bryce Harper and Real Muto if you want to do that. I do like Zach Eflin, by the way. That's my sort of off the board guy. I think that I think if I don't play the top range, what I'll do in a big lineup is just play the Eflin and it's like Tanaka or some sort of combination like that. It's not my favorite thing to do. I think there's enough room to get everything in. The problem is if you want to play the Yankees and you really want to play the Yankees like a 5-man, it's going to be hard to do without completely sacrificing other pitchers, which you can do. But I also like George Springer and Alex Bregman individually a ton. So I'm trying to get all those guys in together. You kind of have to do something like that. And while Eflin is not the most exciting play, he's going to face a mostly right-handed lineup without very many good lefties. And he's very good against righties. He always has massive upside on the K side of things. If he can keep his control if he can stay under control, which he mostly is pretty good at, I think you can see a big performance out of him. He wasn't great the last time these teams faced, but he's coming off 39 against Toronto, and I think with that kind of upside, we could play him.
The one thing I would say about the Washington side is you could play what's his name, Stevenson at 2,300. Assuming he gets in the lineup hitting from the left side, and then you could play like a lefty thing with him and Soto, and play Cabrera. You could do that also. I didn't quite get to them. I looked at it for a little bit, and I just found there were just better options. I think Eflin, from what I remember, hearing over the last couple of weeks, was that he's been just kind of beyond elite against like righties.
Yep.
But maybe not quite as good against lefties. So if you wanted, again, you don't need it. There's like 28 freaking teams to choose from, right? But
it's not going to be a bunch of righties. But my point is that other than Soto, I guess you could say is Drew Brohl to some extent. But like Brock Holt is projected to bat 5th. Luis Garcia is projected to bat 7th. Eric Thames has been one of the worst hitters in baseball this year. Is projected to bat 8th. And then you've got a bunch of righties. So
right.
Stevenson, I totally agree. Stevenson might be leading off tonight, in which case he's a phenomenal value along with the other value plays. I still prefer Jay Bruce to him, but he's another guy you can include.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't quite get to Eflin, but as you would say, I certainly get it.
I'm still just thinking about it. I'm not locking that one in or anything. Real quick, pitchers information on that game. I'm just seeing.
Umpire, you mean?
Yeah, slight hitters umpire. Nothing drastic.
Okay.
All right. So you ready for Chicago Cleveland?
Yeah. So Chicago Cleveland's got two of the better pitchers, two of the best pitchers on the slate, in Giolito and Bieber. Like for me, and it's not like either of their matchup is that great, okay? But nonetheless, I'm currently 90% Bieber, and I don't think I'm going to be alone in really overweighting him. I think that his price is just so cheap relative to what he can do. The guy strikes out everybody. The guy strikes out everybody. He just mows him down every freaking game. Doesn't matter who he's pitching against. And
he had one game less than 20 fantasy points all year, and that was 19.9.
Yeah,
but he's like.
However, though, he certainly. So we'll talk about Bauer in a little bit. He certainly could get outscored by Bauer, but you know what's weird about Bauer? We'll get there. He's on is he on 3 days rest?
It does seem like short rest.
I think he's on 3 days rest, and if that's the case, I don't know, man. I know he just pitches 120 pitches every freaking start, but that combined with the fact that they're probably gonna have to put him in another game right before the end of the season, another must-win game. I think that if they're ahead, you know what I mean. I don't think that. I don't know. The usual Bauer pitches many pitches as he wants mantra. I don't know about it. So for me, I think Bieber is kind of like the clear number one today.
I agree, but I would say that Bauer is going to probably throw 100 pitches. He's been trying to get this done forever. He's literally talked about since he was in Cleveland, pitch me every 3 days. I can do this. I don't think that they're going to limit him. Maybe they'll limit him like around 100.
Right.
Which is very un-Bauer-like. I mean, he pretty much throws 110 most of the time, and he's got room to throw more if he wants to usually. I'll just point out, he did put up – he struck out 12 guys the last time they had this matchup. I love Bauer. I am okay to take what's going to be lower ownership because people are going to be afraid of this. Anyway, I agree with you. Sorry. To stay on this game, I prefer Bieber. Giolito falls a little behind the other two for me.
Okay.
But I don't mind him. I think that he's, it's actually a better matchup than he faced last time out. He hasn't been great in a little bit. He was pretty good against his Cleveland team last time, but I just don't think – I think I'd rather play Maeda, to be honest.
Yeah, I like Maeda, and I guess we'll get there, but I like Maeda today. Yeah. All right, well, any hitters? I didn't really get to any hitters.
No, I mean, anybody, anytime you see the interdivision games, I just, you can always play the Ramirez or Lindor as hoping for just a monster game against Giolito because it's doable. These guys in division, I have some faith in, but, I just think you can pay that price today to be crazy.
So Texas, Arizona, I stopped looking into it just because I got lazy, and I said, yeah, I'm just not going to need it. But what do you think of Alex Young in this spot?
It's it's so hard to play a guy who's never put up more than 15 fantasy points, but at the same time, on a good pitching slate, Texas has been so inept, maybe he can get there. I just think it's the wrong slate personally, and. Right. I definitely don't like the hitting in this game. I just want to say, right off the bat.
You don't like Arizona?
They closed the roof finally. It's been open, and that's enough to pull me off. But I do like Marte is obviously a great value. You could take a shot with LeCastro. You could take a shot with some of these Escobar, Christian Walker is still cheap. I'm just not into the stack today. I don't mind any of those guys as one-offs though, including Calhoun too.
What I was going to do if I was in my Arizona stack is if I played any of it, I would make sure to not play Marte. I just figured I would just take the real ownership discount and just hope baseball be baseball, and play guys other than Marte in there. And I'm not
back at the same kind of price range as this later on. And by the way, Extreme Pitchers Umpire, one of the best pitchers umpires in the slate.
Oh, is that right? Okay. Well, I'm probably not going to touch this game.
It's also just when you think about the Texas, even last night we got an example of it. They were in a great spot. They don't really have all this incredible power that you want. It was nice to see Marte back in the lineup, but the LeCastros, and I do like Dalton Varsho, even though again as catcher I don't mind him at 3,100. And Escobar's better than he's been this year, but he's hitting 180. These guys have been bad, but they're in a good spot. Any of them are fine. I'm just not going to stack.
So just so you guys know what I'm thinking about. So I have 6 stacks that I'm considering. So what I'm doing is I'm doing like 20 lineups in the 15, whatever, and I'm going to be entering either one big lineup or 3, depending on where I kind of really. If I really love something, I'll do 1. If I can't decide between 3, I'll do 3. So I need to knock out a couple, and I think Arizona is going to be the casualty. So I think that the combination of the umpire plus the roof being closed. So I think I'm now down to 5.
Plus
so
just an all-around team that doesn't, and sure they could explode for some power out of the blue, but they just haven't. They really just haven't.
So we're getting there.
But Marte is one of the top plays. Obviously, if you're playing cash games, you're starting with Ketel Marte. There's not even another player to mention before him. A 5K player, or 45. He's one of the best 50 to 75 hitters in baseball, and he's 29.
You think that? And again, it's kind of stupid to say this, but you think points per dollar, he's better than Jay Bruce?
Yes, because of the position flexibility, and he's going to stay in the game. There's no pinch hit risk, and he's there is a pinch fielding risk. So that was tilting last night a little bit. So I had Marte and Varsho get lifted in the 8th inning.
Really?
But at the same time, I don't know exactly what it was. I guess it was for defensive purposes, which is weird because Marte is the regular. So I don't know if they did a double switch or something, but I read one of the guys on State Kings posted what the hell is that? They took Marte and Varsho out before they would have had one more at bat. So that was a little bit just like, okay, keep an eye out. He still had 4 at bats last night, and I still think Marte is a phenomenal play. But I do think he's, yes, I think he's better than Jay Bruce. But I like Philly better than I like Arizona, so I might end up with more Jay Bruce.
All right, you want to move on?
Yeah.
So Yankees, Toronto. Like for me, again, if I needed to or wanted to, Tanaka is in that list of mid-range guys, or I guess cheaper guys, is the best way to describe it. If you didn't want to play 2 of the studs together, for me it was like either him or Hendricks or Alex Young actually. So I mean, he's fine. I just don't think I'm going to do it. Certainly, if you wanted to pay up for hitting and you need to save the money, you can certainly justify doing that. And as far as the hitting goes, I mean, for me, the Yankees are just not one of my favorites, given everything else. You know what I mean? Given ownership, given just everything. I mean, I guess on raw points, if I just had to guess, they're probably one of the top stacks for sure. But the guys that I want, I'm probably going to be higher on the higher own side. So I don't think I'm going to be stacking the Yankees in my in kind of my hand-built lineups. But I certainly like them. They certainly are going to project well. And you got Stanton and Judge and Hicks and DeMahieu and Torres and Voit. You know, the normal guys, and they can certainly and Robbie Ray can certainly give up lots of walks, home runs, and everything else that can turn into a good stacking situation. So it's going to be a little scary, but they're just not going to make it as my top one.
So here's what scares me about the Yankees. Did they hit home runs yesterday when they scored all these runs? I don't think they did. And I think it's back-to-back days we've seen in this colder weather in Toronto, these teams put up numbers but not hit home runs. And that worries me. You're going to need home runs to win on this slate. I'm looking right now through all the Yankees who played yesterday. I don't see any home runs. I see a lot of guys with multiple hits, but not a lot of home runs. And maybe Sanchez hit one or something. Let's see. No, he didn't either. I still think it's the best spot on the slate other than the weather, because Robbie Ray, as much as, we've talked about him and how he can be hit or miss and this and that, I can't picture a worse matchup than a really patient, right-handed, powerful team for him. So whether it's as stacks or one-offs, I mean, look, if we're just going to play hard on the weather angle that home runs aren't going to be hit, you almost would consider Robbie Ray. I'm serious, because I don't see – I see strikeouts, walks, and home runs in this game. The only thing that worries me a little bit is that it's a little bit cooler in this Buffalo Stadium, which is supposed to be great for hitting, but I haven't looked at the home run numbers recently. And looking at just the recent production in the weather, we've seen these huge explosions from these teams without any power. You've also got the winds sort of blowing somewhat in from right, but it's more of a cross field at 11 miles an hour. It's only 67 degrees. It is really humid. I would give, I don't know. I love the Yankees stack here and there. I love some of the power one-offs. I don't know how much of them I'll get. I do think that they're going to be lower owned than you think. If you can try to get them in with the ace pitching, do it. But I don't know how popular they're going to end up being because of the pricing with those pitching. But I think they still should be one of the most popular stacks. It's just too hard with that run total for them not to be.
Anything we have to ask? Anything?
By the way, Stanton obviously over. The one thing I worry about with Judge is that, just coming back from the injury, they'll be a little bit delicate with him. They're pretty much, going to be in the wild card situation anyway. You just keep an eye out on this stuff. I like Stanton's price better, obviously, than Judge's. It's easier to get him in. Torres, nobody's going to play. Urshela, by the way, he'll be the really low-owned one. We can keep going back to LeMahieu, Voit. I mean, I think Voit would be my preference, followed by Stanton, and then maybe Hicks.
Yeah, I guess, again, nothing fancy for me. Stanton, Judge, and Hicks would be my 3 favorites.
This is a pretty outlandish run total for a game that's not in I mean, not in Coors, not in Boston, not in Baltimore. It's weird.
Yeah.
I mean, the other part about Robbie Ray is there's always a chance that he goes out there and finds a little bit of his old form, or, you know what I mean? Doesn't get knocked around so bad. He's had some medium 4 or 5 inning starts recently, but I just think he's going to be in trouble here.
Okay. Do you want to move on to Milwaukee, Cincinnati?
Yeah, this one's pretty easy for me. I just like Bauer, and I'm worried a little bit as you are, but I think that playing him with Shane Bieber is probably your best upside move of the day, even on the short rest. Maybe you could argue that Maeda is definitely going to be the more popular SP2, but I have no problem using Bauer and Bieber together. They're too cheap. I mean, these guys should be like 11.5 based on the prices we've seen other pitchers at in this range. Really, like these are the two. Are they the two highest? I think they are. I know Bieber is. Yeah, they're the two highest fantasy scoring pitchers in baseball, and they're actually two of the highest I've seen. Other than Scherzer, they're like the highest I've seen in consistently in years, even more than DeGrom.
I was close. This is literally one of the last teams I crossed off. I was close to getting to Cincinnati in my list of stacks, but I just didn't quite get there. Just kind of fair warning. They were close, and so I was close. I don't know what I said, but I was close to getting to Cincinnati. Couldn't quite make it, justify it, but I was close to it. So I was going to play Suarez, Castellanos, Shogo, Winker, Moustakas, guys like that. But just too many other. I would say too many other options. I just went to different options at the end, but they were close for me. Again, if you want to. Bauer does give up home runs. If you want to play Yelich at 1%, you can try that. If you want to play Vogelbach at 2%, you can play that. But, I mean, no huge rush to play Milwaukee guys. And that was pretty much all I had.
Yeah, if you really wanted to reach and play Winker, Moustakas, or Votto, I don't have a problem. But I'm not stacking this team against this bullpen. And even though Hauser's been bad, I don't think he's like the guy we want to stack against in this slate. That's just my take, but that's pretty much it for me.
All right, you want to go on to Houston, Seattle?
Let's do it.
Okay, I have not played Zach Greinke since the Eisenhower administration, but I might play some of him today. Just the only reason I mention it is just because, just for the different, I don't know how to describe this. So the risk associated with Bauer, the 3-day rest and all that stuff, and I felt as though that Greinke and what's his name, Giolito, I thought that if people were going to pivot off those guys, that Giolito would naturally be the one to go to just because of all his strikeouts and his no-hitters and all that stuff. And Greinke might just be left alone a little bit. And let's face it, he is against Seattle, right? And I might actually get to some of him today, and it's very, very rare. So you could try to talk me off of that, I guess. And then on the hitting side, Houston is one of the teams that I'm considering as my main team or one of the top 3. And a guy I also don't like to play that much is just kind of hard to ignore is Gurriel at 2,800. I mean, I you know what I mean? He doesn't really do anything for me ever or anybody. But at 2,800, it's he makes a lot of other stuff work. And then Brantley, 3,400, and the regular power guys, Springer, Brigman, and Altuve and Tucker. And so that's where I'm at. No hitters from the Seattle side. So maybe some Greinke and maybe Houston.
I don't mind the Greinke idea. Again, it's just a matter of spending on the other spots there, but I think he's an interesting alternative to the other guys. I really like Springer and Bregman specifically today.
Okay.
I don't think Margevicius is going to be bad in the long run, but he is struggling now, and those are the guys who I would try to focus on. And then I guess if you want to throw in Gurriel because he's 2,800, he kind of makes some things work. I don't really have a problem with that. Margevicius could get a little bit wild on the mound. He can give up some hard contact, and I just think maybe taking a couple of these guys makes sense. But I'm not doing the full stack thing again. I'm doing a 2 or 3 man at the most.
Okay. Anything else?
Not for me.
Okay. Chicago, Pittsburgh. So as I mentioned before, if you didn't want to play two studs together, one thing you could do is play Kyle Hendricks. The only thing is that I mean, we did really well playing him last time. Last time he was in a heavy anti-win game in Chicago. So, but he's a really good pitcher. Pittsburgh's not that great, and you could certainly do it. I don't think I'm going to, but again, it depends on where your lineups go. I just don't think I'm going to pay down. I think I'm just going to pay up for those guys. So Hendricks is a decent option. I didn't get to the Cubs on DraftKings. FanDuel a little bit more. FanDuel I got to them a little bit, but on DraftKings I didn't get to them. And I guess I'll ask you about Trevor Williams. I don't play Trevor Williams, but I know you would actually, a lot of sharp people do sometimes. So I figured I would just see if you had any interest in him also.
Yeah, I definitely have at times, but I don't think that this is the right time to check. Okay. It's like when he's like 5K or something. And
okay.
I don't know. I just have no interest in this game except for Hendricks.
Okay. I
don't mind if, like Baez has been struggling so much that he's so cheap on FanDuel. So I like Baez over there a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first game on the FanDuel slate, by the way. So Williams at times in the past has given up hard contact to righties, including home runs. So Baez, Happ, Contreras, Rizzo they're all cheap. I just don't think I'm doing the full stack thing, but I don't think it's like the worst thing in the world. I just won't be going that way on this slate.
Okay. You want to press on?
Yeah.
All right. So, Miami, Atlanta. I mean, these are both very intriguing pitchers, right? I mean, Max Fried could win the Cy Young, right? I mean, I don't know.
If everybody just stopped looking at strikeouts, he would win the Cy Young, and it wouldn't be close.
Yeah. So I'm not going to get to him. He's not much of a fantasy guy for me, especially on a slate like this where you have all that strikeout upside kind of lingering. And Sixto Sanchez again, like on another slate, maybe against a better matchup. Also, I would, he's certainly got talent, but I'm not going to get to either of these guys. And I mean, honestly, I didn't get to much of the hitting either in this game. So I'll just let you talk about this.
Yeah, Atlanta would be a stack or fade. It is a really good pitcher's umpire in Marty Foster. I like Fried. I don't know if I'll get to him on DraftKings. I think on FanDuel he's kind of interesting because you don't have those other guys. And maybe you could play him over Maeda if you wanted to. I think there's it's a really, really likely quality start, 6 innings, low production against him, probably in the mid, on FanDuel in the mid to high 30s, hoping for the win and the quality start, getting into the 40s, maybe 50. I think he's got a reasonable shot at all those things. I like Sixto a little bit on DraftKings, but I just don't think I'm going to end up doing it. Like, I really like this kid. I've made that really clear. It's a tough matchup. This Atlanta lineup has gotten mean. Like, they've gotten way, way, way tougher than they were at the beginning of the year. You got Dansby Swanson with their leadoff. He's batting 9th now. Albies is back there in the 6th hole. You got Markakis batting 7th, 8th. Like, this is a tough lineup. So I don't mind it, but I just don't think I'm going to end up getting to it, sort of like you said. And I just think Fried makes a little bit of sense on FanDuel.
That's it. Ready?
Let's do it.
So Tampa Mets. Glasnow is another one who's in that range of guys that I mean, you have to think one of them is going to do well, right? Between Glasnow and Hendricks and
Glasnow's in the same category though that we have with to some extent with Giolito.
No, that's what I'm saying. So I forget Giolito and Bauer and Bieber. I mean, like these other guys, like Hendricks, Glasnow. Again, that's the way I look at Glasnow. Maybe even Greinke. Someone's going to put up a number, I think, of these guys, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. I don't know. I'm not going to get to any of this. I'm also not going to get to any of the hitting in this game. I got kind of bored out of this game.
Yeah, I could see. I think they'll just keep Glasnow at his normal number of pitches, maybe a little bit less, just to like ease him in, whatever. But I still think that he's a very strong play on FanDuel. Like, I keep going back to this. Maeda is the best pitcher, but of these FanDuel plays. But when you're going to pay up it as a pivot, like I really like the idea of trying out Glasnow or Fried, and I think there's upside, especially in Glasnow's case, because he can put up a number that can it can win you a tournament. Like, so he's interesting over there.
Okay, you ready?
Let's do it.
So Baltimore-Boston actually treated me decently last night. I didn't quite get actually everything I wanted out of it, but, Boston put up 8 runs, including your man, who I had in almost every lineup with Christian Vasquez. He hit a bomb home run, actually. He killed it. And then even the Baltimore, the value just kind of did its thing. And then one of the other guys I had hit a home run for Baltimore. So that game put up some promise, and I think that I'm going to go right back to it. I like both sides of this game again. On the Baltimore side, just the normal value dudes. So Hayes, Stewart, Mullins, Montcastle. Then you pay up a little bit for Ruiz, Alberto. I have great interest in that. And then on the Red Sox side, JD would be my favorite, and then I like Verdugo. I just like playing him, even though he's not going to hit like home runs or anything like that. He just never makes out. I don't know. I like Brantley, and then after that, Devers, Bogarts, or Spendas, whatever. Chavez isn't bad, so I like both sides of this game.
I just want to point out that Dean Kremer has been excellent in his first 3 matchups, and really, really tough matchups.
Okay.
Just want to throw that out there. I still have some interest in Boston. More again, they fall absolutely not into my stack range, more in my mini stack range. But I don't mind the whole. You could stack because the bullpens are so bad on both sides. Mm-hmm. I don't mind anything you want to do here. I do think Eovaldi is the sneaky tournament play. I actually can make an argument for Kremer with how good he's been. Eovaldi, who knows how much he pitches in this game? It's a huge wild card. There are plenty of strikeouts in that Baltimore lineup, and sure. It just wouldn't surprise me to see him go out there. He put up 26 against them a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
Like that just feels I would be thrilled with that. You know what I mean? And that feels very much in the realm of possibility. It's also high risk, and it's probably not necessary on this slate. But so yeah, you stick more with the bats here. I do think that you can play these cheap Baltimore guys. Absolutely. Again, it's ridiculous what their prices are. DJ Stewart would be my favorite of them as usual because he at least has some power upside and tends to have at least for some reason he's always driving in runs. But that's mostly it for me. Just the value guys, JD Martinez on the Boston side with Bogarts or Verdugo or Devers. That's pretty much the guys. And Bobby Dalbec. You have to play Bobby Dalbec. That's the one guy we got to make sure we're playing now. That guy is a monster, and as we pointed out yesterday, his name is also Bobby. And I believe he didn't hit a home run yesterday, but he was 2 for 3 and had a double, I believe, a couple RBIs. So he's actually put up 21 and 16 his last 2. He's cheap, and maybe not for DraftKings, but on FanDuel, I find myself using him a little bit.
So not to gossip too much, but I don't know if you follow this, but there's something going on Twitter with one of the DFS guys. I'm just kind of hoping it's a troll and not serious, but there's somebody like allegations of pedophilia. I don't know what it is.
Wait, in the DFS industry?
Yeah, it's got to be a troll. But there was a lot of posts about it. I'll you know what? I'll tell you about it offline, just in case I didn't look at it long enough and it's just a big joke. I don't know. But because you mentioned Bobby Dalbec, his name is Bobby, and somebody tweeted, "Oh my God, I can't believe this guy is now a piece of shit." It's his first Bobby Sly, and now this guy. I'm like, Bobby Sly? What are you talking about? Bobby
the other guy they're talking about? Don't.
You want me to, I don't want to just draw people through.
You know what? No, say the name because it's right now. It sounds like you're talking about me. So do a good job with the name.
No. There was something about Manny Laura.
Oh, Manny Laura. Oh, okay.
If you tweet about, I just hope it's all big, whatever. Because I really didn't pay too much attention to Twitter, but I saw like a whole bunch of stuff come out on it. But I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, okay, interesting. All right, yeah, I don't know what's happening with that.
I don't know either.
All right.
But okay. With that said, Bobby Dalbec's a good play.
All right, Bobby Dalbec. Yeah, let's move on to the next one.
So Detroit, Minnesota. As you said, I don't think I can get away from Maeda on FanDuel. With no competition, between Bieber and and what's his face, Giolito on this slate. I'm gonna play Maeda at that whatever his price is on FanDuel. And I didn't get to the Twins, the hitters. Maybe that's a mistake. I don't know. And that's pretty much all I had from this game, actually.
Yeah, I want to see what the lineup rolls out for the Twins, but I like the Twins.
Okay.
It's sort of the similar thing as Atlanta to me, but it's a better spot. I believe Sixto's a little bit ahead of where Casey Mize is. We've talked about how these young guys can get rattled, and then what happens when the bullpen comes in. I mean, you look at the last couple of the games he started. The team's given up 8, 9, 10 runs in 3 out of the last 5 games he started, and it's partly because he gets walk happy early, and then he gives up a couple bombs or a bomb or something, and they have to pull him out. And I could see this Minnesota team who's struggling a little bit start to connect with some things tonight. Obviously, I mean, they'd be crazy to move Buxton back to the bottom of the order at this point. I don't really understand what the hell they're thinking. This guy is just a freaking machine over here. So hopefully we have Buxton up near the top. But I like Buxton. I like both lefties, Kepler and Rosario. Slight edge to Kepler, even though Rosario's been better this season. I like Garver on FanDuel at 2,200. I played him last night in my big lineup over there. I think he's a logical play. I know he's had a terrible year, but he just got back from injury, hit a home run last night. You can play Sano. I like a lot of the guys in the stack, and I want to see if Cruz is in the stack. If he's in the lineup, it'll make me like the stack a lot better if Nelson Cruz is there, whether I play him or not.
Okay.
And then Maeda's, the standard. I think he's your normal like SP2. You play like if you're playing cash, I think you play Maeda and you play Bieber, and that's pretty much all there is to do about it. Maeda has been extremely just like, the model of consistency all season long, and I'll take it. And he's got upside against this Detroit team. Everybody does. So let's play Maeda. If he gets to be too high owned, you can always pivot. We named a bunch of other pivots for you.
Yeah. Okay. You want to move ahead to St. Louis, Kansas City?
Yeah.
Okay. I was really, really close. It's so funny. Like these pitchers, are not bad, and I'm just not getting to either of them. Maybe that's a mistake. Maybe we should be just playing Carlos Martinez at 7,800. I don't know. I don't know.
It feels like so he looks really, really bad in terms of like how far he can even last into a game. Like initially I was like, oh, cool, I'm going to make I'll play Carlos Martinez play today, and no one's going to be on that. The thing is, he has thrown 90 pitches. He threw 90 pitches a couple starts ago, so he can get there. He gave up 5 runs in his last outing, but he only one of them was earned. Is that right? Yeah. But I don't know. This is a weird wild card spot because honestly, if there was a type of matchup that I think he could get away with, this might be the one. I don't know how long of a leash they'll give him. I don't know, Sheets. I'm stuck on this one.
Yeah. On the other hand, just to show you that I'm not just like kidding. Like you see this like little crossed out thing, okay, right here. Yeah. What that was Kansas City. Like it was so close to being like kind of a mad scientist stack. And then just got crossed out at the last second, right next to Cincinnati. Cincinnati and KC got crossed out. But I was thinking about it. I don't know if people want to hear that, but that's where I was at. I ended up not getting to any of it, but that was where my thought process was.
Yeah, okay, so if you're playing anything in this game, I think it's Tyler O'Neill and Paul Goldschmidt. And then I think you're playing Jorge Soler, obviously the great value. You could also play Alex Gordon at 2,200. None of these guys are terrible plays. And they definitely make you be able to let you do whatever you want elsewhere in their stacks. Harrison Bader, if you wanted to get a little mini stack, but I just don't personally want to stack these teams all that much. I will play pieces from this game, but I'm not stacking them. I'll use the guys I just mentioned.
All right, I'm willing to proceed.
Okay, so both these last games are interesting to me. Sheets, I kind of like the Dodgers here again, and I don't want to stack them exactly, so it's kind of tricky at their prices.
Who do you like?
I like Betts a ton, but I don't think that's like a shocker against anytime he's against the lefty. I like Seager in the lefty. I don't mind it. Like, I don't mind Muncy, and I just think that the ownership's low, but it's like such a huge slate. Maybe I'll get some of it on FanDuel, maybe not so much on DraftKings. I do like. I mean, I do think Manaea is a pretty good pitcher in general, but I don't think this is like, I just think the Dodgers can always go off, and I'm always going to be drawn towards them at low ownership because along with San Diego, these are the most powerful teams in baseball. So that's just sort of the way I'm looking. By the way, I Griffin Canning last night. If I would have used Canning, I would have won that tournament by 100 million points.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, I just wanted to remind everybody it was a good call.
Yeah. So if I had to play the Dodgers, I would be wimpy. I would take the righties. I would take Mookie and Turner.
I don't even know if Turner's going to play because he said.
Well, then I probably wouldn't take him if he's not going to
play. a bold call there by Sheets.
That's right.
No, honestly, you know what? If what might be your best play here is like the unknown, maybe Will Smith. Like he's not the catcher that Real Muto is, but he's a good hitter. And I mean, you're going to get Kike at a low price, bottom of the order probably. Yeah, it's not that exciting to unless you're going to stack them, I guess. And it's just it's just always appealing to me when they're going to be low owned as a stack. So I'm going to probably have to throw one in.
Yeah. So
anybody's fine as a one-off. You can get reverse split stuff from Manaea, and the Dodgers can always just go off. That's just simple as that.
I have an interesting question.
Yes.
My question is, do you know without looking? So I didn't look. I'm just like, do you know what San Francisco's record is?
They're like right near 500, I believe.
Because it's so weird because it looks like they never lose.
They lose all. I mean, they play the Dodgers, so they lose.
I guess so.
They play the Padres, so they lose. Yeah, they're 500 exactly.
So San Francisco, for me, is clearly my favorite stack on FanDuel, and one of my top possible options on DraftKings. So, he's going to be chalky, but Dickerson is just free as far as I'm concerned.
On FanDuel.
Yeah.
On DraftKings, he's not. Yeah.
No, he's not free on FanDuel, but Belt on DraftKings. But Belt is pretty much free everywhere.
Belt's a great. Yeah, he's going to be actually, I think, a popular play.
He has to be, right? So Belt, Dickerson, Solano, like a bunch of San Francisco guys, and this is and nobody ever really plays them, and I don't know. They're one of the teams that I was struggling with is to either make my key team actually on DraftKings or at least one of the top three. So if I didn't fall in love with one of the others, I would probably end up playing them. I don't like any of the pitchers. I don't know. That's just kind of where I am.
I hate that I like San Francisco.
Okay, here we go.
I think Castellani is just. I don't know what you call him the worst, but he's definitely the guy I get it. There's nobody I get more excited about when he's starting a game.
Oh, he's that guy. When you said I don't care what the ownership is, I'm playing all the Dodgers.
Yeah,
this guy's the worst
for less than 10 runs. Yeah,
that's right. Okay.
Yeah, and he had gotten away with it against the Angels earlier. It's funny because if you look at his game log, he's actually been more competent, but except for when he's faced the Dodgers and the Padres, he's just been lit up. But he doesn't strike people out. The only time he's had a decent anything all year was against Texas early in the season in Seattle. He's just not a good pitcher. He can't find the plate. The bullpen, Colorado feels almost like they've given up in the way they've played this season. I like this spot for the Giants. I don't care what anybody tells me. It's all BS a little bit about the stadium thing. I've been looking at some of the numbers. It's really not all that different. I mean, I want to just read to you. This is why I'm nervous about saying I want to stack the Giants. These are their last games. Let me grab Brandon Belt, somebody who's played every day, because I want to get it accurate. I think there's a perception like we were having with Seattle earlier in the year that they're scoring more runs and hitting more home runs than they really are. They did score 14 runs the other day, but other than that, you're surrounded by 5, 2, 0, 6, 9, 1, 0, 1, and then 10. So I guess you could call them a boom or bust offense. So sure, it still feels wrong on what is a 14-game slate on DraftKings to stack the Giants.
It does
in San Francisco, but I'm still there with it. Maybe I'll turn it into only a 3-man. But what I really like about it is first of all, you can do it really cheap. You've got power upside, especially if Darren Ruff starts.
Hell yeah.
I don't see them taking Darren Ruff out if he starts because he's playing against a righty, and that's the only issue. And he's been good all year. Separately from hitting home runs, he's actually hitting. Like he's hitting, for average too. He actually has become a decent hitter. Alex Dickerson makes a ton of sense. I agree with you on FanDuel, but on DraftKings as well. You can play Solano. You can play whether it's Solano or Flores. I'm guessing it's Solano tonight at second base, and he's just again not showing a ton of power, but guy's hitting 340. You can play these guys, and then you can play Bard as your catcher, who's been disappointing. Thankfully for me last night. He was
no kidding, huh?
But I don't mind taking a shot on this guy. I think he's got a good future ahead of him. So I like the little Giants as like a secondary stack to some of the other ones. Maurice Dubon, if he's in the game, he's another cheap one. There's a lot of guys on this team that you could easily plug in. Against Castellani, they all have upside.
Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
I'm going to give you 4 teams. And I want you to just for a team to just stack a 5-man stack or at least a 4-man stack, just the key teams. I want you to tell me of these 4, which one you would cross off. Okay. Now I'm not going to hold you to it. I used to do this whenever you would tell me you like something and then I didn't do anything. You'd feel you have to apologize to me for some reason. Okay. You don't have to do that. So San Francisco, Baltimore, Houston, Boston.
San Francisco, Houston, Baltimore. Who was the other one?
Boston.
I think I would probably cross off Baltimore. But I like all those teams. I think Baltimore would be the one I probably have the least exposure to.
Okay. All right. There you go.
But I still like it. I also think Eovaldi has some upside in that game, so you have to remember that. I mean, in terms of my favorite teams to stack tonight, I really like the Phillies.
Okay.
I like the Yankees a lot, even with the things I said about the weather. I mean, there's just so much man, we talk about how you don't want to stack teams that just keep scoring all the runs. But the Yankees, when they're healthy, kind of should score all the runs every night. And the Dodgers are like that, and so are the Padres to some extent. These guys you can just always make sense for, and the Yankees just are in such a prime spot tonight. I also love the upside for the Twins. I know they've struggled lately against Casey Mize. If they do get him in trouble early, I think there's a flip side where he actually has a really nice outing. But I think that if they can get him in trouble early, there's a chance that they could go off. But the more I go back to it, I want like Philly. If you told me I had to have a bat from somebody from one lineup today,
Philly.
I only like the top 6 for the most part. It's probably Philly.
Yeah.
And some of it's pricing but the power upside I like. I think that they can move that lineup over against Fedde. I really like this spot for Philly.
Okay.
And by the way, the one thing about Philly, though, about the 5-man, be careful. Because Fedde, one thing that he'll do is he gives up so many hits, he doesn't always get a chance to walk enough guys. So it's great for a few spots, but I tend to like against guys like that to do the 4-man stacks a little bit better. That's all I'm saying.
Who are your favorite Phillies again?
Favorite, if I could afford them, Harper and Real Muto.
Okay.
But the realistic ones are Bohm, Didi, Gregorius, McCutchen, and Bruce.
You'll play Roman Quinn too, right?
I'll throw Roman Quinn in, but I'm going to find it hard to need him in there, and I'm going to find it hard not to just play somebody else at 2,500. Roman Quinn makes a ton of sense in this matchup actually because you have a 40% strikeout guy against a guy who can't strike anybody out. So if there was a good matchup for Roman Quinn, this would be it.
You know what I think I'm going to do? What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to use Baltimore as kind of like my secondaries, Yeah. That's what I think I'm going to end up doing.
That's sort of the route that I've liked with him lately in general, and I think it makes sense again. It's just with Boston and Baltimore, there's always that chance of the ultimate shootout game because of how bad. I mean, these bullpens are like them in Detroit and KC are all really, really awful. And KC's a little better than theirs is, but they're all so bad. All right, you want to do a few quick home runs and then get out of here?
Sure.
All right. Who have we got, Sheets?
Well, Brandon Belt.
Okay, I like that one. I'll go for another guy in the 3K range who's a little bit cheaper actually, but I'll go with Alex Bohm.
Okay. Do I want to rip this one off? No, I'm not.
I'll go another cheap guy while you're at it. I'll take Jorge Soler.
Ooh, I like that. I was just staring right at that. The The other one I'll do is I'll go back to Springer again.
All right, I'll take Stanton.
We'll go one more each. This guy's never hitting a home run in a million years. I will go with your guy. I'm going to go with Corey Seager.
All right, I'm going to have to just go with, even though I wanted to pick one of the spend-ups and the obvious picks, I'm just going to go with our guy because we have to mention his name again.
Buxton?
Buxton, yeah. We got to play a little Buxton.
He hits a home run every game.
Why don't they let him play every game? I don't understand it. Every time I look up, he's hitting a home run. Not only that,
what's his name? What was the guy? Who was the guy that the Dusty Baker, right? With the load management, right?
Oh God, yeah, the load management in baseball. Get out of here, guys. Jeez.
On a 60-game season.
Yeah, get out of here. All right, Sheets. I think we did the job, guys. Good luck out there. We will see you on the QLTV show, and we will see you at the top of the leaderboards tonight.